Noyjeetut here. Just finished reading The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, the actual book that I got for $1, which I think is pretty good. Pretty damn good if you ask me. So yeah, going into this, my only really heavy exposure to the storyline at all was, a couple of shows doing the old whitewash gag with a kid tricking another kid to paint the fence white, making it look like it was so much fun. And Tom and Huck, that awful 90s movie from Disney. The movie, they made Sawyer, Jonathan Taylor Thomas character, into this like lover boy who then never got dirty, and he just kind of was always hitting on girls, but was kind of wussy in some ways. And Huckleberry Finn was kind of like the leader, when I would say Tom Sawyer in the book is much more the leader, and they're about even on the knowledge they trade off, or the superstitions they keep between each other, the kind of kid lore they keep bringing up in tight situations. So they're about even there. Sawyer kind of envies Huckleberry because he's free, because he doesn't have any parents and can do whatever the hell he wants. But at the same time, he also a lot of times tells Huckleberry what to do, and then guides him into different things and gets him in trouble. Like one thing I don't think they even touch on it in the movie, but Joe Harper was a friend, and Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn went to this island to become pirates for a while, and I think they went for 3 days, and this is the point where they fake their own funeral, kind of, or find out that their funeral's going to go on. And that's the only way Sawyer can get the boys to stay on the island, because both Huckleberry Finn and Joe Harper get really homesick right away. And Sawyer's trying to keep him there for as long as he can, which is funny because Finn doesn't even have a home, but he has, these urges to go back to what he knows before Sawyer, who doesn't want to answer to Aunt Polly. And in the movie, that awful movie, one of the big teasers in the trailer was Huckleberry Finn there with Tom Sawyer in the top of the church in the attic, and he pushes Tom Sawyer through the boards. He's like, "Oh, they miss you so much. You need to return to him," and then pushes him, and he falls through, and they rejoice for a little bit, then they get really mad and stuff. Okay, that is way off, because it was Tom Sawyer's whole idea to come through the boards in the roof and expose himself as still alive. So yeah, stuff like that just really gets lost in that movie. I can go on. What else? They cut out a lot of the dialogue. I guess they don't want to talk too much about all the dead animals and stuff that kids play with. A lot of the whole thing with the Welshman thing's cut out, I believe. Becky Thatcher and Tom Sawyer in the cavernous cave. That's like made into, like, I don't know, to seem like it was a few hours. It was actually days, and they both thought they were going to starve to death, but they kind of gloss over that in the movie, and yeah, just not as good. And I think what was it, Injun Joe falls down in a chasm in the cave. But in the book, he gets locked up in the cavern and dies of starvation. So there's all these little things and stuff. And one thing I never got from watching the movie is, I gotta look up her name, but the woman that takes Finn in just sounds like a freaking gold digger in the movie, because she takes him in, and she's taking in a kid that just became rich off of a found fortune. So she just looks like a bad character. It's like, where were you when he was poor, you stupid evil bitch? Get your hands off of him, you grubby whore. But no. In the book, that woman helps nurse Finn back to life, because he got sick tracking Injun Joe. So there you go. It makes much more sense. Much more sense. The book. Yeah. So that's a really bad adaptation. But I think you already knew that. You probably already knew that. I like the book a lot. It kind of captures a lot of feelings a kid has. Something I share with Tom Sawyer is like, when you feel like you've been wronged by your parents or by other kids or by a girl you like or whatever, in your mind you wish to give them all the guilt in the world, and even if it meant like you died in some scenario, you think it out and say, yeah, that'll show them I'll die, because of what they did to me last, and they'll feel it all the way in their bones, and they'll be sorry they ever did that to me. And that's something I remember going through a lot as a kid. I was like, oh, I'll show them by doing, by pretty much dying. It's a kid logic that they explored. Also goes into the same kind of genre of running away, to try to, I'll teach him, I'll run away, and I'll show him something good, and all that stuff. So yeah, that's something I think it's really funny, and something I'm glad they picked up on. Of course, you don't go through with that, hopefully. I never did. Yeah, I just always imagine, the pain I can cause people with death. It's just so stupid. It's just one of those stupid things that doesn't make any sense. But when you're mad at somebody, and that's all you have really is just guilt to give them. Tom Sawyer and me are really different in one aspect, and that's when you're really bored and you're sitting down, and if you can just sit there and just get through it, if you're going to church or you're talking about school or whatever, if you're just not entertained at all and you can get through it, and how you cope with those kinds of situations. And Tom Sawyer, of course, acts out, or he finds something else to focus on. He can't sit still, really. Throughout the book, he's always trying to find ways to always be entertained and have some fun. But me, on the other hand, I can kind of zone out and just go into my mind and just sit there and think of 1,000 different things that I could rather be doing, or just different scenarios in my head, or just daydream about, I don't know, Cody Webster NBA championship #1, or baseball, or MMA, or anything. I mean, I just delve into these things and just create a whole fantasy world for myself to play in, where Tom Sawyer seems to only be able to act out whatever he's feeling, so he has to always be in motion. It really captures childhood, the essence of therein, just the way it feels. And it's funny because it's not outdated, even though it's a whole different time that this was out. One thing I think is I really wanted to get into Injun Joe's past. Like, I'm always reading it, I'm wondering, what the hell did Injun Joe do to piss everyone off? What did he do originally? What was his big crime, that just made him on this downward spiral to nothingness? Because it almost seems like it's almost racist at parts, where it's picking at Injun Joe for being an Indian, or a half Indian, half white, mixed race guy. When I don't know, I wish it went deeper and just tell me something really bad about him. It's just because all this shit happens to him, but I wonder what was the initial thing that just made him a no-good-nick in that town. Yeah, and I'm going to go back to the movie, but just the roughhousing with Tom Sawyer just was not displayed at all with Jonathan Taylor Thomas. It just he didn't do any of that stuff in that movie, where here Tom Sawyer is beating up kids to get attention from girls all the time, and he's doing it for pecking order too. He's just a little animal sometimes. It's funny as hell. But in the movie, he was really polished. So yeah, I thought I'd read a few things that I liked in this. Just some things that haven't been, told 1,000 times. I didn't want to, go over the whitewash story, or, any big conclusion, or I just picked some things that I liked that just entertained me for whatever reason. And something that, of course, did not make the movie, but we already know that because that movie sucked, and really couldn't capture these moments with the talent involved. This is Tom Sawyer in church, bored off his ass. Presently he bethought himself of a treasure he had and got it out. It was a large black beetle with jaws. A pinch bug, he called it. It was a percussion cap box. The first thing the beetle did was to take him by the finger. A natural Philip followed. The beetle went floundering into the aisle and on its back, and the hurt finger went into the boy's mouth. The beetle lay there working his helpless legs, unable to turn over. Tom eyed it and longed for it, but it was safe out of his reach. Other people, uninterested in the sermon, found relief in the beetle, and they eyed it too. They eyed the hell out of it. I like the wording here, eyed. Presently, a vagrant, I guess a poor poodle dog came idling along, sad at heart, lazy with the summer softness and the quiet. Twain, you master wordsmith. Weary of captivity, sighing for change, he spied the beetle. The drooping tail lifted and wagged. He surveyed the prize, walked around it, smelt it from a safe distance, walked around it again, grew bolder, and took a closer smell. Then lifted his lip and made a gingerly snatch at it, just missing it. Made another and another, began to enjoy the diversion, subsided to his stomach with the beetle between his paws, and continued his experiments. Grew weary at last, and then indifferent and absent-minded. His head nodded, and little by little his chin descended and touched the enemy, who seized it. There was a sharp yelp, a flirt of the poodle's head, and the beetle fell a couple yards away, and fell on its back once more. The neighboring spectators shook with a gentle inward joy. Several faces went behind fans and handkerchiefs, and Tom was entirely happy. The dog looked foolish, and probably felt so, but there was a resentment in his heart, too, and a craving for revenge. So he went to the beetle and began a wary attack on it again, jumping at it from every point of a circle, lighting with his forepaws within an inch of the creature, making even closer snatches at it with his teeth, and jerking his head till his ears flapped again. But he grew tired once more after a while, tried to amuse himself with a fly, but found no relief. Followed an ant around, with his nose close to the floor, and quickly wearied off that. Yawned, signed, forgot the beetle entirely, and sat down on it. Then there was a wild yelp of agony. The poodle went sailing up the aisle. The yelps continued, and so did the dog. He crossed the house in front of the altar. He flew down the other aisle. He crossed before the doors. He clambered up the home stretch. His anguish grew with his progress. He was but a woolly comet moving in its orbit with the gleam and the speed of light. At last the frantic sufferer sheered from its course and sprang into its master's lap. He flung it out of the window, and the voice of distress quickly thinned away and died in the distance. By this time the whole church was red-faced and suffocating with suppressed laughter, and the sermon had come to a dead standstill. The discourse was rescued presently, but it went lame and halting, all possibility of impressiveness being at an end, for even the gravest sentiments were constantly being received with a smothered burst of unholy mirth. I don't know, I like that little story. It just was funny. And actually, you know, if they did everything that he explained in great detail just right, I mean, that clip would only take like 5 minutes in the movie, but they never pulled the trigger on that. So yeah, hey, Hollywood, here's something you could do. Do this right. Eh? How about that? Stop remaking shit. Let's go back and do something right. I mean, hell, I don't know how far it can get, but yeah, you probably have to make this rated R with some of the shit in it. Seriously, like the school teacher is like, he spanks the children with a rod, and that was because they found out he was reading pornography during class. I mean, that is kind of, I mean, it's out there, but with today's standards, you have to rate it R, but I'd see it. Gosh, Tom Sawyer, uncensored. Fuck yeah. This is another little story that would never be put into anything, but here I go. The harder Tom tried to fasten his mind on his book, the more his ideas wandered. So at last, with a sigh and a yawn, he gave up. It seemed to him that the noon recess would never come. The air was utterly dead. There was not a breath stirring. It was the sleepiest of sleepy days. The drowsing murmur of the 25 studying scholars soothed the soul like the spell that is in the murmur of bees. Away off in the flaming sunshine, Cardiff Hill lifted its soft green sides to a shimmering veil of heat tinted with the purple of distance. A few birds floated on lazy wings high in the air. No other flying thing was visible but some cows. They were asleep. Tom's heart ached to be free, or else to have something of interest to do to pass the dreary time. His hand wandered into his pockets, and his face lit up with a glow of gratitude that was prayer, though he did not know it. Then figuratively, and the percussion cap box came out. He released the tick and put him down on the long flat desk. The creature probably glowed with a gratitude that amounted to prayer, too, at this moment. But it was premature, for when he started thankfully to travel off, Tom turned him aside with a pen and made him take a new direction. Tom's bosom friend sat next to him, suffering just as Tom had been, and now he was deeply and gratefully interested in this entertainment in an instant. This bosom friend was Joe Harper. The two boys were sworn friends all the week and embattled enemies on Saturdays. Joe took a pen out of his lapel and began to assist in exercising the prisoner. The sport grew in interest momently. Soon Tom said that they were interfering with each other, and neither getting the fullest benefit of the tick. So he put Joe's slate on the desk and drew a line down the middle of it from the top to bottom. "Now," said he, "as long as he is on your side, you can stir him up, and I'll let him alone. But if you let him get away and get on my side, you are to leave him alone as long as I can keep him from crossing over." "All right, go ahead, start him up." The tick escaped from Tom presently and crossed the equator. Joe harassed him a while, and then he got away and crossed back again. This change of base occurred often. While one boy was worrying the tick with absorbing interest, the other would look on with interest as strong. The two heads bowed together over the slate, and the two souls dead to all things else. At last luck seemed to settle and abide with Joe. The tick tried this, that, and the other course, and got excited and anxious as the boys themselves. But time and time again, just as he would have victory in his very grasp, so to speak, and Tom's fingers would be twitching to begin, Joe's pen would definitely head him off and keep possession. At last, Tom could stand it no longer. The temptation was too strong. So he reached out and lent a hand with his pen. Joe was angry in a moment, and said he, "Tom, you let him alone. I only just want to stir him up a little, Joe." "No, sir, it ain't fair. You just let him alone." "Blame it, I ain't going to stir him much. Let him alone, I tell you." "I won't." "You shall. He's on my side of the line." "Look here, Joe Harper, who is that tick?" Whose is that tick? There we go. "I don't care whose tick he is. He's on my side of the line, and you shan't touch him." "Well, I'll just bet I will, though. He's my tick, and I'll do what I blame please with him, or die." A tremendous whack came down on Tom's shoulders, and its duplicate on Joe's, and for the space of 2 minutes the dust continued to fly from the two jackets and the whole school to enjoy it. The boys had been so absorbed to notice the hush that had been stolen upon the school a while before, when the master came tiptoeing down the room and stood over him. He had contemplated a good part of the performance before he contributed his bit of variety to it. So there you go. I just like that. And the funny part is, like, he buys the tick. He bought that tick. It was the season's first tick. He bought it from a Finn for like a dead rat. So yeah, I just love that everything is currency in a child's hands. It's great. That just reminds me of being a kid. Also, I think I can end in no better way than just this little snapshot. I love this shot, this picture. Not many illustrations in here, but when you get a good one, you gotta share it. Can you read that? "Do you love rats?" That's a pickup line, boys. Do you love rats? I sure do. It's like finding a girl who likes video games. It's like you find a girl who likes rats in that day and age, and you are in for good. I was just like, I want to marry you, please. You're mine. Let me put a ring on that finger or a doorknob in that hand, and we're good. So yeah, that's Tom Sawyer. I love this book. It's a great book. It was a good read. It was a fast read. Definitely, if you haven't already, I think most have, but I always have to put it out there. Check it out. Yeah. That, you know, better than any kind of Cliff Notes you could read or that god-awful movie. Man, that movie was bad. So yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you got some entertainment value out of this. If you didn't, screw you. Tom Sawyer rocks. Mark Twain's awesome.